Welcome to the Type 45 Daring Destroyer Ship Brief. This is the Royal Navy's primary destroyer, designed to defend the fleet in any sea around the world. It is very long range, has great endurance, a very unique engine system that we're going to talk about called Integrated Electrical Propulsion, and has a large number of surface-to-air missiles. This is a anti-air warfare destroyer, or AAW destroyer, with some anti-ship capability. We'll go over both the limitations and the offensive capability of this weapon in this lecture here. Let's begin with the weapon systems. The Mark 8 4.5-inch naval gun is on the bow. It's one of the only offensive weapon systems on this platform. Right behind that is the silver A50 VLS. This is the primary purpose of this destroyer's mission, is to launch these surface-to-air missiles out of this launcher. It's a 48-cell VLS. Right behind that are Harpoon Block 1 Charlie anti-ship missiles, in conjunction with a gun on the bow, the only offensive weapon for anti-ship warfare out here. Behind that is a remote-controlled weapon system using a 30-millimeter gun that has already been outdated with the American Bushmaster, but not installed on this one. We'll talk more about that. And the Mark 15 Phalanx 20-millimeter Sea Whiz. They have one port side, one starboard side, 4-point defense against cruise missile and close, low-flying aircraft. The sensors on this are very impressive, though. This ship has an outstanding Sampson Multi-Function active electronic scanning array radar right at the top there, and it is extremely powerful. It has below that an ESM system that is very good. That's for electronic surveillance, and the Type 1048 and 1047 navigation radars. Satellite communication is possible via the two masts there. Above the helicopter hangar is a very interesting radar called Smart M. The Smart L has been upgraded to Smart Modernized on most of these. It's a long-range search radar we'll talk about in detail, and grabs most people's attention because it looks like a bulletin board, but it rotates. They made 6 of these between 2009 and 2013. Those were the commissioning dates there. First one was HMS Daring, and thus the class is called the Daring class. All right. The Type 45 destroyer by the numbers is very interesting and often complicated. The IEP, Integrated Electrical Propulsion System, in 2009 was very new. This was one of the first ships to use it and employ it, and it caused a lot of problems in the development of the Type 45. It broke down all the time and still breaks down in the some 15 years later. So they've had a lot of growing pains integrating this electrical propulsion system, but they've managed to do it and learn a lot of lessons from it. It turns 2 shafts that are controllable pitch propellers. It weighs in at 8,000 tons fully loaded, can do 30 knots, but if it wants to get 7,000 nautical miles before its next refueling, it has to limit its speed to 17 knots. The 48-cell silver A50 VLS is the primary weapon system on board the Type 45 destroyer. It holds those Aster 15 and Aster 30 surface-to-air missiles. Obviously carries 48 of those. Carries 16 Aster 15s, which are medium range, and 32 Aster 30s, which are long range and anti-ballistic missile intercepting surface-to-air missiles. The Mark 8 Mod 1 is the 4.5-inch naval gun that is pretty reliable. The Mark 15 Block 1 Bravo Phalanx 20-millimeter Sea Whiz and the Mark 44 30-millimeter Bushmaster are used for close-in targets. Those are ballistic weapon systems. The cool thing about the 30-millimeter Bushmaster is that it is controlled electronically from inside the ship. You don't actually have an operator out on it. And the Sea Whiz can be controlled in either mode as well, from inside the control room manually or selected to an auto mode where it just engages targets that are nearby that meet certain requirements in terms of speed and range. They do have a couple mounts for 2.62 millimeter miniguns. On the sensor side, again, we have the Sampson Search Radar, which is the primary one at the top. The round cover on it is just a cover for the radar itself. The Smart L long-range search radar and Smart M is the modern version of the Smart L. You may see either one when you're talking about this. The Type 047 and Type 048 are low probability of intercept navigation radars. The Talos BAE Systems 1046 air surface search radar is on board. Of course, they have the UAT Mod 2 electronic surveillance module, so they can just record and listen to other radars and see what contacts are out there without transmitting anything. They have a Shaman counter ESM, which is used for defensive purposes. The Type 2091 Ultra MFS 7000 hull-mounted sonar is both an active and passive sonar system. They have 2 different SATCOM arrays for communication, and a Sea Viper air defense system is controlling these weapon systems. And the AW101 helicopter is the only anti-submarine weapon system on board. One of the many limitations of this very powerful destroyer is that it has almost no anti-submarine capability. All right, so here's the integrated electrical propulsion system. This thing breaks down a lot because it was pushing boundaries when it was, designed and installed, and it's gotten better. I'll give them that, but it's still a problem for the class. So this arrangement of diesel generators and turbine generators working together generate electricity. That's all they do. That's the generator part of the diesel generator, is to just turn that mechanical motion of the diesel into power. And it's 3-phase electricity that goes out into the bus. The bus is then controlled and diverts the electricity to systems that need it, whether it's ship services, like hotel loads and running all the computers and equipment. And then it also diverts some of it to a frequency converter that converts it to DC electricity that turns the motors to turn the propellers. And that's all controlled electronically. Now, it may generate more power than it needs because the power fluctuations may change as equipment comes online and offline and people are operating the ship. So there is an additional energy storage solution installed on all ships that have an IEP. This allows the generators to maintain a constant RPM and the turbine generators as well, so that they're very efficient. And so they can operate at their most efficient RPM most of the time, and any excess energy can be stored for later. But know that the turbine generators can spin up and spin down in different high and low level modes as well. But ideally, you want to keep these generators spinning at their most efficient RPM. So the WR-21 gas turbine generator is made by Rolls-Royce. It has great fuel consumption at both low power and high power levels as it goes between those 2 speed ranges. It does have a reduced infrared signature by the way they shield and diffuse the exhaust gases coming out of it. It's very clever how they do that. It spins at 3,600 RPM and generates 25 megawatts. That is a lot of electricity coming out of one of these, but I would expect no less from a company like Rolls-Royce. The Sampson Multi-Function Radar is the big ball on the mast over the bridge there. It's the high point of the ship. This controls, or is a component of, rather, of the Sea Viper system, which is the system that controls the surface-to-air missiles and directs them towards their targets, as well as tracking over 1,000 targets. So it can track 1,000 different contacts, we'll call it, and it can shoot down 12 of them at a time. So it's a very capable S-band radar that can look out to just over 400 kilometers in range. That's well over the horizon. Track a target and shoot it. The Sampson, the S1850M for modernized radar is the large black rectangle that spins over the helicopter hangar and is often the first thing people notice when they see this ship because it looks like an advertising billboard. But it's actually a very powerful and capable radar. Operates in the L band, which is 1 to 2 gigahertz, can track up to 1,000 targets, and has a 300 kilowatt peak power. So it is a very long range active radar used for supplementing tracking the 1,000 targets that the Sampson does. The Type 1047 radar is manufactured by Raytheon. This is a low probability of intercept navigation radar. It finds the coastline, gives the operator a high resolution outline of what the coastline looks like, and also any close small craft would show up on this. The thing that's key about this specific radar is that LPI. It has a very short active pulse less than a millisecond. And that pulse is very unlikely to be detected by an ESM system on another ship. It can be done. It's just hard to do. You have to have a good operator. All right, the Mark 8 4.5 naval gun is on the bow. This thing shoots 25 rounds per minute out to a range of just over 27 kilometers. That's the ballistic range, by the way. The effective range would be a little bit shorter than that. Pretty reliable, and is the old standby. Again, this ship has been described as a porcupine in that it doesn't really have any kind of offensive punch. It can only reach out to 27 kilometers, and that's with one weapon system shooting 25 rounds a minute. The other offensive weapon system we're going to get to is the Harpoon, and everything else about this ship is defensive. It's designed to defend the fleet with weapon systems like this. This is a remote control weapon system, the DS-30 Bravo. This will be replaced by the Bushmaster 30 millimeter that the Americans use. But for now, many of these old Darings still have the DS-30 millimeter remote control weapon system. Has about a 10 kilometer range, shoots 650 rounds per minute, has a pretty decent barrel life at 5,000 rounds. You're probably not going to get through that pretty quick, and is being replaced by the Bushmaster 30 chain gun. Cool thing about this gun, it is completely controlled remotely from inside the ship with a joystick. The Phalanx, very similar. This is a point defense close-in weapon system, 20 millimeter, not 30, so a little bit smaller round, goes a little bit farther because it's smaller, faster, out to 3.6 kilometer effective range. This system has been around and upgraded for decades, probably going on 50 years now, because it works. It's reliable. It's iconic in shape. Everyone recognizes it, and they continue to improve it. That's the most important thing. The Mark 15 Phalanx close-in weapon system of today is not your grandfather's Sea Whiz. This is much more capable. It has many more sensors, including electrical, optical, and manual control, different burst fire modes from 3,000 to 4,500, and can shoot at negative 10 degrees elevation down for those unmanned surface vessels that are coming in like they do in the Black Sea to destroy the Russian ships. Well, this system can look down and shoot down and keep that from happening automatically. Or you can take control of it manually. They have two of these, one on each side. The Aster 15 SAM is a medium range, 30 kilometer range, Mach 3 surface-to-air missile, goes as high as you need it to be, 13 kilometers altitude if you're keeping track. This was IOC'd in 2016 and battle-tested and proven to be very effective in 2024, where it was deployed and used in the Red Sea, engaging everything from UAVs to cruise missiles. So this is a very successful design, the Aster 15 SAM, and its bigger brother, the Aster 30, which is the same seeker head, but has a big booster motor on the bottom of it, pushing it out of the VLS up to speeds of 4.5 Mach, and can reach out to just over 120 kilometers range. And it is capable of intercepting ballistic missiles, and this happened in 2024 in the Red Sea when an anti-ship ballistic missile was launched from Yemen towards a ship. This missile intercepted it successfully. So it is a very successful and effective system. The downside is that the Aster 15 SAM, the shorter range one, does not come in quad packs. It is designed, as if it's a larger missile. You buy them one at a time and takes up an entire VLS cell. So it's not as efficient. You could have more on board if they had more space. This thing takes up more room than it needs to, and that's the Aster 15. The Aster 30, because of its increased capability, is worth the space that it takes up. Now, because we future-proof these lectures, we're going to talk about a weapon system that is coming in the next few years to replace the Aster 15. That short-range brother to the Aster 30 is going to be replaced by the AIM-132, because this one comes in quad packs. Specifically, this short to medium range missile made by MBDA will come in a 24 C-Scepter module. And that module can pivot. It's going to be mounted just forward of the bridge between where the VLS is now and the bridge. And it's going to hold 24 short to medium range surface-to-air missiles of the AIM-132, which is extremely accurate missile. So they're going to be able to use all 48 cells of the Silver A50 VLS system for Aster 30 anti-ballistic missile and greater effectiveness missiles, and have these for closer, shorter range and lower priority targets like UAVs. This thing will take out a UAV, leaving the Aster 30 to worry about ballistic missiles and greater threats like that. This is coming down the pipe. All right, the Harpoon. I called this ship a porcupine, which the Royal Navy does not like that description, but it's accurate, and many people use it because it has no offensive capability other than these harpoons. And by the description of where they're putting the Sea Scepter, it's right where these harpoons are located right now. I assume they're taking them off, which would limit the ship even more in terms of offensive capability. But it does have the RGM-84 Delta anti-ship cruise missile, Harpoon, been around since forever, 70s or 80s. But it's been upgraded. This is not your grandfather's Harpoon, just like it's not your grandfather's Sea Whiz, 20 millimeter Sea Whiz on the back. They've upgraded this every couple years for 50 years now, so it's much better. The limitations of the Harpoon are it's not stealthy. Everyone's going to see this thing coming because it wasn't designed to be stealthy. It still isn't. It's one thing they've never changed about it. It does have long range, though, 124 kilometers. Subsonic. It's very subsonic. It's very slow compared to other cruise missiles that are also subsonic. This is one of the slowest anti-ship missiles that's still in use today by major navies, I should say. It does have a 221 kilogram high explosive warhead, which is very interesting warhead. Probably not allowed to talk about it still, but basically it's designed to rip aluminum and thin metal ships apart and then also set it on fire, which is very clever how it does both. And then, of course, the fire is what sinks the ship more than the size of the warhead on this missile. But it's not stealthy and it's very slow, which means any capable Navy is going to see it coming and shoot it down long before it gets to the target. So you're going to want to employ more than 4 at a time against one target. And if you're shooting a fleet, pick a different weapon system. Don't shoot harpoons at it because you're just wasting your time. Everyone's time if you're doing that. But the one great thing to say about this slow, unstealthy missile is that its ECCM is probably the most effective in any Navy. The Chinese have figured this out, and so has NATO. For whatever reason that is not public, even if you jam this missile, it has a high probability of impact on the target, and they won't say why. Something changed over the last 10, 15 years where they've cracked that code, and the Chinese have it too because they put it on their YJ-83 missiles. So even if you jam it, the missile may miss. The jamming may be successful, but there's a greater than 50% chance that even if it's jammed electronically, it will still hit the target, and I can't tell you why because I don't know. Other than that, so if it doesn't get shot down, it'll probably hit the target is my point. All right. I've said that this ship, this porcupine of an air defense destroyer, has no anti-submarine capability. They put a sonar on it. They didn't put any torpedoes on it. So almost as an afterthought, the Royal Navy said, man, maybe we should add a anti-submarine helicopter to it. Of course, they did. They had the helicopter hangar in the design from the beginning. So they chose the AW101 helicopter. This thing's a beast. I've had the opportunity to get on board a Royal Navy ship and kind of stick my head in one of these that was kind of folded up in the hangar because that tail section folds in whenever it's stowed. And it's big. It is a big girl. Like, I'm impressed this thing gets off the ground. But it does carry 4 lightweight torpedoes designed for anti-submarine duty, destroy submarines. It doesn't have any kind of sonar system itself, so it would be completely reliant on the ship's hull-mounted active sonar to communicate the position of the target, which it does have that capability. That's automatic. It's called data link, and the control and the weapon, Sea Viper weapon system. Anyway, and so it can drop the weapon on the target accurately. But it has a surface search radar on board. It can carry up to 4 torpedoes. It has just under 8 hours of endurance of flying time, and has a max speed of 277 kilometers per hour. It is propelled by 3 GE CT7 turbojet engines because it's so big. It needs 3 of these things. It's not fuel efficient, but it can stay in the air a long time compared to other American helicopters, the smaller ones, at 7 hours, 40 minutes. So not impressed with this. A submarine is going to be this ship's downfall. As soon as it comes across a submarine, it had better have this helicopter in the air already, or else it's not going to have time to get it in the air. All right, final thoughts. I am impressed with the air defense capability of the ship. I want to tip of the hat to the designers. They were instructed to build an air warfare defense destroyer, and they did. That was fantastic. They started commissioning these back in 2009. So by today's standards, it's not a new design. And they pushed boundaries on an integrated electrical propulsion system that had not been done before, except for the Americans had done it on the Zumwalt. And so these ships were, coming online and being designed in about the same time, roughly. And so they were willing to take chances, and they did. The smart radar, whether it's the Sampson at the top of the bridge or the Smart L, Smart M radar over the helicopter hangar, is an incredible piece of kit. Tracking 1,000 targets is not easy, but they have the capability of doing it. The Aster missiles, 15 and 30, both of them are fantastic, accurate, high-speed surface-to-air missiles. So for purpose, this is a wildly successful destroyer. It will defend the fleet from air attack, whether it's ballistic missile, UAV drones, USVs. It's going to do a great job defensively, which is why it's a porcupine. It won't hurt you unless you touch it. And that's the description of this thing. It has very little offensive punch. It has a 4.5 millimeter gun, and it has some harpoons on it that they're probably going to take off to make room for a 24 cell Sea Scepter. We'll see what they do with that, how they manage to mount that whenever it actually happens. So if they can keep the harpoons, at least it will have some offensive punch. But again, the harpoon is not the best anti-ship weapon anymore. The Naval Strike Missile is, and they are supposed to be getting that. Where they're going to mount it, whether it's on the same mounts as they have now after the Sea Scepter install, we'll have to wait and see. But a fantastic air defense destroyer is the Type 45. And very impressed with her. But she needs to be in a fleet. She needs to be escorted, protected from submarines. And if you're taking her to war, she's going to need to have a carrier or somebody with her to provide offensive firepower. All right. And that's the Type 45, everybody. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.